I'm the Chief Returning Officer of the UMSU elections this year. As you know, there are executive elections as well as an election for certain community reps and 2 referendum questions. Today we're going to hear from representatives from each of the 5 slates running for executive positions. Tomorrow, in the Fireside Lounge at noon, we'll have a forum for reps from the registered referendum sides and the community reps. Community reps representing the community of women, community of students living with disabilities, LGBTQ students, and international students. Unfortunately, there were no nominees this year for the Aboriginal student community. But today, before you have for us our representatives from each of the 5 slates, we're going to let them introduce themselves. I'm also going to introduce now the moderator, Craig Adolph. He's the editor-in-chief of the Manitoban. I'm going to turn it over to Craig.
The only thing I had to say for an introduction was who I was, so not much else to say. We'll, I think, get ready for the introductions. We're going to have 5 questions set forth by myself. We'll go one at a time for 2 minutes. He'll get a 30-minute warning or stop before 30 seconds, and we might ask follow-ups if there's any sort of ambiguities or things worth following up on with that extra 30 seconds. So for each of the questions, we'll sort of move down the line and start with a different slate. And we'll also be taking questions that we will follow up with at the end. So we'll have time for another 2 or 3 questions at the end from people in the audience.
So for our members of the audience, what we do with questions is you have 2 choices. You can tweet them at me at UMSUCRO, UMSUCRO, or write them down on a sheet of paper, bring them up to me, and we will look at the questions. We don't pose questions that are inflammatory, etc. You must pose a question to all of the slates. You may not pose a question to just one. So you can tweet them, UMSUCRO, or bring them up a sheet of paper, and must be posed to all candidates. Thanks.
So we can start with introductions, going from the left and just moving along. No, you can sit down if you want to.
Hello. Okay. Good. Okay. I'm Niall Harney. I'm running for president with UMSU Forward.
Hi, I'm Hannah James, and I'm running for vice president external with UMSU Forward.
Did you want to take another minute just to say some more about your slate as well? Just take a minute or 2 to stuff.
Okay. So what UMSU Forward is committed to bringing to this campus is a new type of student leadership. We want to bring student leaders who listen to students, who know what the issues are, who can create creative solutions, and who are always with you fighting for what we believe in. What you get with us is a committed group of activists who've been on campus building a better union for years already. We've got great solutions to problems big and small, and what you can count on is that we know what we believe in, and that's inclusive, diverse, and high-quality education.
Hi, just so y'all can see me. I'm Zachary Leclerc. I am currently your vice president internal, and I'm running for re-election as president in the UMSU elections as an independent. What I can guarantee with from me in office is you will have a mixed team next year. The problem with slates is you get groupthink going in. As good as everyone's intentions are, you're still focusing on who voted you in and your agenda throughout the campaign. If I'm voted in office, inevitably, there will be a mixed team, and we'll have to bring ideas from around campus, collaborate together, and truly move forward a group initiative for our university. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nick Kuznetsov. I'm running for VP Internal with Tech UMSU. Our slate is free of the influences of all political parties there are. We will bring UMSU back to its students. We will transform the businesses of UMSU into student services. Students are already aiding heavily those businesses, and we will not allow those businesses to take profits off of the students again. We'll make profits for those businesses run for development, not for the coffers. We will address our market monopoly on food on Bannatyne and Port Garry campuses on the Campo. We'll address the residents' food quality, especially the Feminine Hall building, where there have been cases of even food poisoning. We will address the recently closed archive, where there is going to be, we will reopen the archive and we will move it to a more suitable position. Hello.
Hello, I'm Shah Walipur, running for Vice President of Student Services, and I'm from Cape Town.
Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Slipper Thapa, and I'm the Vice President External at the University of Manitoba Students Union, and I'm running for President with the team Strong UMSU. I want to provide you with a student union that you're proud of. A student union where executives like me lower our wages to improve scholarships and bursaries for you. A student union where we're leaders in environmental sustainability and pioneers of social justice. A student union where sustainability is a priority. We want to implement composting, implement a car share program, and a bike share program at the university. And we want to advocate and pressure the university to double the number of mental health counselors at university to reduce wait times, and so that we can run awareness campaigns to remove the stigma attached with mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. And we want to advocate for, we want to provide you with free feminine hygiene products, not just in Women's Center, but also in each and every washroom at the university. They need to, when men can get free condoms, why can't women get free tampons and pads? Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah Hallock. I'm running for Vice President Advocacy, also with Strong UMSU, and I think Astitla did a great job kind of summarizing what we stand for. Hi everyone, I'm Tanji Nagra, and I'm running to be president of the 2016-2017 year with my team, UMSU for You. I'm running with some fantastic student leaders, Wilfred Sam King for VP External, Allison Kilgore for VP Advocacy, Harrison Case for VP Internal, and for Vice President Student Services, Ashley Richard. And we are proud to be one of the most diverse teams in this election. Something we want to work for next year is we want to hear more from the students. We want to make sure that your voices are being heard and that we're doing anything that we can to serve you next year. We released our policy document yesterday. It's 22 pages long. We incorporated as many ideas that we could from the students, and we want to make sure that, that those are accomplished next year. Thank you.
We'll jump back to the first slide and again move rightwards. With your introductions and during the UMFM forum, you've all sort of mentioned some of the initiatives you'd want to implement if elected. What are some of the initiatives that you think set you apart from other slates?
Okay. Hi, everyone. So this is great. We have similar initiatives, but I think we have some really concrete ways of achieving them, and I think that's really important to touch upon. So sustainability on campus is also something we are really passionate about. Composting in particular, we also need to expand on the recycling that is on this campus. As of right now, there's not recycling in classrooms, but one initiative that we're really excited about is our composting initiative. So basically, it costs $65 a ton to have the composting like our waste disposed of by an external facility. But if we do it ourselves, we get $15 back a ton, plus we have all that compost. So we're actually propositioning, and we're going to be working towards a student composting enterprise. We have the capacity on this campus, we have the brilliance on this campus to make something like this happen. So why not harness that and make an actual social enterprise on this campus and do things more make sure that our campus is a leader in environmental sustainability. The second thing I want to touch upon is mental health. So basically, right now, our mental health facilities, there are 4 spots, drop-in spots. They have to be in person a day for students to access. We want to expand upon that, but we also want to push towards a student crisis line. So that would be collaborating with other universities. We have our own needs as students, so why not have a specific student crisis line that we can have our issues touched upon, and it will take be in collaboration with clinic, in collaboration with other universities throughout the province. So thank you, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. And actually, just because we have so many slates up and speaking today, before you answer, just maybe a reminder on which slate you are so everyone can follow. So next up, same question. What are some of the initiatives that you think would set you apart from the other slates?
Okay, so once again, I'm Zach. I'm under the, I guess, the banner Zach for Prez, and again, independent. So I think one major difference that's setting me apart is this, running independently. I want to really focus on our governing documents and recognize that there are critical issues with how we're structured internally. I do support a lot of the kind of more exposing campaign kind of agendas that we can move forward next year, and I'm relying on whatever team I have in office next year to collaborate with me on that and make that happen. But having been in office the last year, I know where there are holes in our governing documents. I know where there are issues with how we run our organization. I want to fix all of that. And a big thing for me is election reform. This is not an inviting and welcoming platform for all students around the campus. Like I said earlier, slates lead to groupthink. We need to bring people from all walks of life around campus on their own merit, getting in, not on popularity of others within their slate. And another, I guess, big point that I would expand on is we've expanded on social programming this past year, or over the last couple of years, and we still have great advocacy campaigns. But I think some students are here focusing on their academics and focusing on undergraduate research, and we need to give them a stage to share with the rest of the students what they're achieving and making of their student experience. So I want to propose a couple symposiums a year where they can showcase their undergraduate research, maybe even develop an undergraduate 3-minute thesis competition. Also through travel grants, students are all putting money into the travel grant program, but not all students are using it. So anyone who gets subsidized travel grants program, I want to have 2 symposiums a semester showcasing what they have gotten from a conference and sharing that knowledge with everyone. Thank you.
Next up.
Tekrar Council, Nick Kuznetsov. To make sure that everybody's voice is heard, every student has a chance to say and voice their concern and show their progress and ask us about our progress. We will institute a monthly town hall meeting, and we will institute an open door policy that will be truly open door. In fact, there won't be any doors. It will be held on neutral grounds where students might approach us one-on-one in a suitable, comfortable environment. Also, we're instituting a transparency committee to make sure that UMSU is running efficiently and fairly to students, to the administration, and to itself. And my running mate, Shahab, is going to explain how we're going to increase majorly the funding for student groups without dipping into the budget.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shahab Balipur from Takeback. So as you know, the past year, our UMSU executives, UMSU and the students got really separate from each other. Separate from each other. Our students has right to decide for their future, for their school. We are going to look on the process of the hiring profs. Because now, right now, we are, a lot of our profs getting retired, 3 profs getting retired, but we are hiring 1 prof. And then the quality of the education is the most important thing. We have to work on it. Because our university ranking goes down really fast. We have to make it up, keep it up. And for student groups, we have over 150 student groups in University of Manitoba. And we have only $40,000 budget for them. We have to increase this budget because they are heart of the school. We have to support them. We have to, for these things, I'm a current president of the Big One Group of Yahweh. We got really independent from the UMSU because we raised our own money and we made the fundraising. We are going to do this for all the student groups. We have this power to make a fundraising for students and a sponsorship for students. Thank you so much. You're listening.
Next up.
Sarah Halleck again from Strong UMSU. So I'd like to just touch on three shorter things. So on a lighter side, we want to also introduce an UMSU app, which no one has kind of, that's a little bit different from their platforms. The reason that's important is because it's really hard to kind of figure out what's actually going on here at the university. A lot of people want to attend things, but they just don't know when or where they are. And advertising is great, and the money that we're putting into the promotion for things like the hub, I think could be much more used to more important things, such as a sexual assault support center. Unfortunately, that is a reality, that it's a problem here on campus, and it's a problem across the country. Other universities have opened sexual assault support centers. They've provided these resources to their students, not just for the people that have been assaulted themselves, but allies, survivors of them that come to university with these problems already. Another one of the things that I want to touch on is that these executives want to lower our wages because we feel that we could use the money from our salaries to give it back to you as much as possible. Our whole platform is really about delivering things directly to you as students, concrete initiatives from lowering our salaries directly, which another note that we've discussed is we would leave it up to UMSU Council how much we would lower our salaries by. So it's not us saying like this small amount that we're just going to take away and say that we did it. It'll be up to UMSU Council and the students. That money can go to scholarships, bursaries, hardship funds that will make a difference in direct students' lives. But thank you.
Next up.
UMSU for you. Something we want to do, we want to revisit the UPass for folks that take the bus to school. The current plan right now is for 8 months. We want to make this into 12. And also for folks that come to school on other sustainable means, by carpooling, by biking, things like that. We want to look into opt-outs for you as well. And we want to make this a top priority if elected, and to make sure that we're still scheduled for a start date of September 2016. In addition, we would like to implement heated bus shelters and also painted bike lanes as well. Thank you.
We have one new candidate. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly? Next question, we'll start with Zach this time and then finish with the first lady. The University of Winnipeg recently approved an Indigenous course requirement after receiving a push from UWSA and individual students. If elected, is an Indigenous course requirement something you'd advocate for at the U of M?
Okay, so I actually recently had, Zach for Prez, Zach. So I actually recently just did an interview with the Manitoban discussing this topic. And it's not that I'm against Indigenous course requirement, but I think we need to make steps towards it. So I know out of UMSU's earlier consultation for its pillar on Indigenous achievement, there was conversations with members of staff from Mikiziagamak, as well as students from the population, and the general consensus was that we would rather identify courses that are already hitting on topics of Indigenous learning to bridge to that point where we can have a mandatory credit and there's less animosity and pushback. So it's about building to that point. I'm personally against just an absolute Indigenous requirement next year. I think we need to build the steps towards it. Thank you.
Next up.
Thank you, UMSU. We believe that it is important that Canadian students learn and international students learn about the Indigenous population of Manitoba. However, considering the budget cuts that recently that were undergone, and the conditions of the absent preparation for such a measure, we believe that as a first step, it might be wise to have this course offered to students free of charge. If people are to be educated about Indigenous population, why not make it free for them? Why not make it accessible? Because some of the people are dropping off their loans, their study loans are not enough, they're dropping off of school. Some people are being taken back home because they cannot afford education. And let's make it more accessible. Let's make that course and the whole university more accessible to people. and I mean financially accessible.
Okay. Next slide.
From UMSU. Let me first start by saying that it's extremely important that we decolonize our university education systems. It's important that we, incorporate indigenous knowledge and way of learning in all of our education system. However, we do not believe in a mandatory indigenous course requirement because it's important that like when we're mandating indigenous course requirements, it's not necessarily solving the bigger purpose. We believe that firstly, faculties need to identify which courses have indigenous course requirement. I hate to say this, but the University of Winnipeg Students Association has not done effective consultation on making indigenous courses mandatory. This needs more consultation, it needs more discussion, and it has to come from indigenous students. I personally do not feel comfortable mandating this at this point of time.
UMSU for you. It's unfortunate that Ashley Richardson isn't here, my VP of Student Services, but she is a part of the working group that's been talking about the Indigenous course requirements. And to be honest, we have courses available already at the university in the Faculty of Arts and Native Studies program here. These courses are available. However, we believe that there's other ways of implementing it into curriculums that are related to your respective fields and faculties, rather than making a required course. And in terms of reconciliation, we believe that's the history is very important. It's important that folks know about what the Indigenous folks went through in Canada, and there are ways of implementing it into current curriculums. And to be honest, it starts through K-12 education here in the province. It's about advocating to the government to ensure that it is being taught properly in schools, starting from a young age. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Hannah again from UMSU Forward. Okay, before I really start, I just want to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the homeland of the Dene, Cree, Oji, Cree, Anishinaabe, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I think it's really important to always be recognizing and honoring these treaties, and that was just an important thing that I should have done at the start, but here we go.
Okay, so Niall, UMSU Forward. I think when discussing this issue, it's important to talk about the distinction between an Indigenous course requirement and an Indigenous credit requirement. What's been implemented at the U of W is an Indigenous credit requirement, which finds ways of implementing Indigenous knowledge across the university. So not just one specific course, but multiple courses. And I think that provides for the needs of students much better than a course requirement. But our position as a slate is to make sure that in implementing this policy or following the university's lead, that we're identifying the needs of students and bringing those to the administration. We definitely see the merit of an Indigenous credit requirement. We understand this is a public university. Indigenous people are members of our public. And as a public university, we have a duty to reflect their needs and their interests. And if, as an institution, we're going to engage with Indigenous people on a nation-to-nation basis, we need to be celebrating Indigenous ways of knowing and Indigenous contributions to our society.
For the next question, we'll start with you. If the Progressive Conservatives form government after the April election, we're likely to see a change in direction regarding education policy and funding. How do you think a change in the party in power will affect UMSU's responsibilities and dynamic with government? If the Progressive Conservatives form government after the April election, the April 19th provincial election, we're likely to see a change in direction regarding education policy and funding. How do you think a change in the party in power will affect UMSU's responsibilities in terms of advocacy and their dynamic with government, or your dynamic with government?
I believe, I can only hope, to be honest, that the new elected government will sustain their promise to the UMSU, to the university, to provide the project that they have offered. I can hope that there needs to be a better connection between UMSU and the CFS. There needs to be a better connection between UMSU and the students to be more independent of not more independent, but rather more self-sustained. We need to be able to take care for ourselves, to not be worried about such things as who is going to be elected next. We need to build bridges with people from various parties. That is why we're running without any party support. We believe that by running with one party, candidate refuses to take aid from other parties' candidates from other parties' governments. And that is important that people, it is important that people study politics, but it is also important that a council representing 30,000 people on campus is able to put their interest above interests of any other political party in Canada.
Next up.
A strong UMSU. Irrespective of who gets elected, UMSU has a job to represent its students, and it's important that UMSU pressures the government to reduce tuition fees, work towards having more grants, and maybe eliminate tuition fees in the long run. It's important that we convert student loans into student grants, and irrespective of whether the Liberals get elected, the NDP gets elected, or the Conservatives, UMSU has a duty to represent its students and to keep the interests of the students at the forefront. Whoever gets elected and whoever gets elected from this side, we should be working with them and lobby towards improving or increasing more funding to universities, more scholarships and bursaries for Indigenous students, having a policy which grandfathers tuition fee hikes for international students. We saw massive hikes this year, and that is something that we have to stop. And our team is committed to pressuring the university and the province to increase funding for universities of higher learning like the UMSU.
Great, Tanjeet, UMSU for you. Regarding the provincial election, our slate, unlike others, we don't have any staffers from any political parties. We don't have any allegiances to any specific provincial party.
cut back on student resources. These are choices. There's plenty of money in the budget to offset the cuts. What we need on this campus is student union leaders who make sure that the administration is choosing students first whenever it's talking about its budgetary priorities. We need to make sure that accessible, high-quality education is the #1 priority for the administration, and that that's always what they're choosing.
Just as a follow-up, what sort of steps do you take in dealing with the university to make sure that happens? How do you pressure the university to do that?
So the decision is taken by the Board of Governors. So the first place to start talking about this issue is at that board. We need to make sure that all board members understand what the cuts means. A lot of them are not campus members. They're from outside in the community. They don't necessarily understand what students' needs are on campus and what these cuts mean. We need to make sure that board members all know what the cuts mean, know how much it's hurting students, and know that they shouldn't be voting in favor of them.
Okay, thank you. Zach for Prez.
Yeah, Zach for Prez. So me as one individual, I can't speak to all the faculties. I don't know how the budget cuts are affecting every single department, every single unit on campus differently. So with UMSU, I'd like to start kind of a budgetary consultation process within each unit with the different faculty associations. I think that's a step in the right direction, have the right information, the right student perspective, and hopefully from a professor and staff perspective, and take that to BOG, the Board of Governors meeting. So we have evidence backing us. It's not a group of people listening and hearing if it is their perspective that students are just complaining, they don't really know what's going on. We need the evidence brought to the BOG. It's more than just a voice. We need to provide the evidence. And the reason why that's important is echoing, as Tanji said earlier, is the budgets affect every unit on campus differently depending on your size. So I didn't go to every faculty. I don't know the fees in every faculty. I don't know the structure in every faculty, and I'm relying on UMSU's structure, governing structure, its extensions in the faculties through the faculty associations to bring that information to me so we can have a consultative process moving forward to the BOG regarding the budget cuts. Thanks.
Thank you. Take back.
Nick, take back. So I got carried away with, I'm very devoted to the predictable tuition plan, and we are against the budget cuts as much as we are against the tuition hike. We are against because there might be better ways to find money, and right now the students are hurting. Our degrees are falling down in value. We're not getting hired as much. Our degrees are not worth as much, and our students are performing more poorly because some of the professors that are hired are feeling the budget cuts on them. We're getting seasonal instructors in medicine and in music denied to the students. Therefore, we're getting the musical faculties shrinking from 60, I think, to 40 people right now. Their intake is shrinking, and we can't have that. We can't have students of the first year being taught by professors whose skills are not appropriate. Like we can't have professors who are hired because they are more available, other than better quality. I believe that all students at U of M deserve the best education there is available, and not the most affordable education. That's why we come to U of M. Thank you.
Okay. Strong UMSU.
Dara Hallock, again, Strong UMSU. So I'm actually president of the Faculty of Science, as officially now the largest faculty here at the U of M undergraduate, just by a few people though. And actually in science, we feel these cuts, the lack of funding so heavily. If you talk to a computer science student, they will mention that there is only one section for a 4,000, 3,000 level computer science class that they need to graduate, and then they're having to stay for another full year. I sat in on the endowment meeting when we divided up the money for which department in science, there's 7 of them, who gets funding and who doesn't. And how do you reason that someone in computer science doesn't deserve the tools to get their education, but people in biological sciences do? Like, that is just unacceptable. Every student here deserves to have an accessible education with all the tools available to them to do whatever they need to do to get their degree, to find a job, to succeed in whatever avenue they want to do. With that being said, with VP advocacy, I would be sitting on the Board of Governors, and I would be a strong voice against any sort of tuition increase, budget cuts, anything like that, as well as the rest of my slate. We are firm on being strong against all of those issues. And yeah, that's how I see it from the point of view of science. It's hard to say what goes on in arts and the other faculties, but I know that's where the consultation comes in between UMSU and the student body.
Okay. I guess next up we'll have a few questions from the crowd. I think we'll start on the same side, and we'll go backwards this time just to sort of change the order. How do you plan to create a long-term plan for UMSU given the relatively short length of your term?
All right, so this is a question that can be sort of addressed half by what we're going to do and half by what we've seen in previous years. This year's Executive Council, specifically the President, really made an effort to ensure that there would be a forward-thinking plan for every event and any motion that was coming forward. So say the Finance Committee of UMSU had an idea. It has to be going a certain level of scrutiny and certain levels of government before it can come to UMSU Council and ensure it can be passed or not. This is something that I think, and my entire slate believes, is incredibly important. It has to do with consultation and ensuring that the students have a say. We need to make sure that people know what's going on behind closed doors. There actually shouldn't even be closed doors. Everything should be open to the students, and the students should know what's going on. We want to make sure that by live streaming UMSU council meetings and ensuring that there will be more communication between us and the administration. I know that in past years, there might not have been, and it might be hard to do in just such a short span of time, but making those small and incremental steps is the way we are going to make sure that UMSU can be a beneficial place and can work for you.
Okay, thanks. Strong UMSU next.
So it's important that UMSU as an institution keep working for the students, right? Campaigns like reducing tuition fees, speaking out against budget cuts, that is something that's happening now, and we need to work on that regularly. We actually need to probably enshrine in our bylaws that we speak out against budget cuts, period. International student fee hikes, or any sort of fee hikes, completely. I think it is, long-term plans are important. Last year's council did a very good job in creating a long-term strategic vision, and I actually do agree with Harrison wholeheartedly on this point of creating, of live streaming council meetings. I said that during the forum, and I say that again, and I want to do away with books and all this confidential stuff.
Okay, take that.
Nick, you can sort of take that. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How do you plan to create a long-term plan for UMSU given the relatively short?
Well, first of all, we want to institute the policy where every student is heard. You might have heard it earlier at the town hall meetings and open door policy. Also, we're instituting the transparency committee that will monitor all the activity of the UMSU. And the second major part is we need the students educated about their options. Students need to know who's running for UMSU this year, next year, the year after, 5 years after. And the election process needs to be clear, and it needs to be, I hate to say this, but it needs to stop being a beauty pageant. It needs to stop being about who's got the prettiest banner and the prettiest video. It needs to be about what people can bring to the table. And what we can bring to the table is transparency and bringing the student union back to the students. Thank you.
Just a follow-up to that. How do you ensure that those changes are kept long-term?
We'll do our best. We'll make our best effort to place those initiatives into the bylaws and seal them and enforce them with as much informational transparency as possible. The best way to ensure that some rule is kept intact is to make our population know that this rule exists and that every student has the power to maintain the current order or to change it. Students are at the head of it all. Thank you.
Zach for Prez.
Zach for Prez. I certainly hope it can still be an internal beauty pageant, because I think I'm pretty nice on the inside. Got some integrity, right? Thank you, appreciate that. That being said, for long-term plans and solution, we have to ingrain it into our budget. So as it stands right now, there's our general accountant definitely keeps track of when UMSU takes out a loan for a long-term project or something like that, but it's not ingrained in our budgetary process bringing to council. So I want to change our budgetary structure. So if something is happening, the executives and UMSU council know this loan still has to be paid off over time. So even though you think you have this much student fees coming in and you have this much of a budget to work with, actually you got to consider this repayment structure over time. So that's kind of step number one. Step number two, I have no intention, I have no overwhelming pride to have some kind of regime and long-standing my face on the plaque somewhere. That's another priority. We need, if we're all coming from different perspectives into office, there isn't a campaign slate, name, brand behind everything we do. We're all coming in as individuals, we're representing these students as a collective across campus, and we're not worried about our mark on our campus. We're trying to make a difference for the year, and if that means something we're trying to do should take more than time for that future, we're not trying to rush through it in 1 year. Thank you very much.
UMSU forward.
So Niall and I are going to try to tackle this one together. So I guess our 5 pillars, our policies are all surrounding these 5 pillars, 2 of which are transparency, democracy, and communities. I feel like transparency, democracy, some of the other slides have touched upon. We need to make sure that students are involved in the process, that things are consulted. If we want to put something forward, that we are consulting with students to make sure that it's working towards creating a more accessible, diverse, inclusive campus. Second, communities. I think that one thing to make sure our long-term goals happen is to build relationships between student groups collaborating together and in the broader community. If we really want to make sure things happen, we can't pretend to just think we can do it all ourselves. We really need to work with the expertise of the broader community and the community on campus, because there's so much potential to be working with. And and so Niall's going to go now.
Yeah, like we said, you can only do so much as an executive. You can only create so many rules, but really what keeps a long-term drive, a long-term vision, and long-term goals for this union is a strong campus community. We need students who are willing to take up these battles every year, who can replenish themselves, who know what they want, and who are committed to fighting for it every year.
Great, thank you. We'll start with strong UMSU for the next question. Just a heads up. In the past, UMSU has placed a great deal of emphasis on student experiences and advocacy campaigns. However, the main reason we are here is because of our academic enterprises. How will your slate advance these goals in the environment of the fest? How will your slate advance these goals in the environment of the fest? These goals being academic enterprises and a focus on that. With budget cuts going on, how will you?
Dara from Strong UMSU. So I totally agree with that. Being from the Faculty of Science, a lot of both myself and the people that I know are heavily focused on their academic pursuits, and they really are here for getting involved in research, potentially getting a PhD, doing all that sciencey stuff that you guys see in the news. So some things that we personally have already touched on is that we feel that there needs to be more support to students through scholarships, bursaries. There is money that goes out to these students, but it is very competitive and there's not enough of it. So that's one concrete thing that we can actually do. Lowering our salaries, giving it directly back to students through scholarships, through bursaries. I also think that there needs to be more support for getting involved in undergraduate research. Now, this is kind of more of a faculty-specific initiative, but I definitely think that UMSU can be involved in some way, whether that be through advocacy or looking into starting a program. We did have talks while we were developing our platform policy of a work study program, but for every faculty. Everyone should have the opportunity of co-op, of seeing what they really want to do in their field, applying their studies directly to those issues. And so with regards to the support of students directly, really lowering our wages, giving it back to them directly in scholarships and bursaries, hardship funds, but as creating more opportunities for research and academic opportunities is kind of what we have to partner up with, I think, the administration as well, faculties, other avenues as well, to really make some real progress in that. Because, I mean, it is a university. People come here to gain higher learning, and that's why we need to work with the employees here at the university. It can't just all come from UMSU.
Okay. Take that.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah. In the past, UMSU has placed a great deal of emphasis on student experiences and advocacy campaigns. However, the main reason we are here is because of our academic enterprises. How will your slate advance those goals in the environment of the class?
Take back, Nick. The first thing we want to do is try to work against budget cuts. We will work against budget cuts. We will actively cooperate with faculty, University of Manitoba Faculty Association, that's professors of the university, to fight the budget cuts, to stop them, and eventually to reverse them. What we're going to do for students in particular is allow them to have more access to scholarships by requiring them to, by not making them work, by not making them of tuition, of paying their tuition. Thank you.
Okay. Zach for Prize.
Hey, Zach for Prize. First, before I answer the complete question, I just want to address my, concern with the salary opinion. I think reducing the salary of the executives creates more barriers for students to get involved. Good, thank you. It's really easy to reduce the salary if you're from a city, if you have a lot of support from your parents or supporting the community. I know for me, I pay for my own housing. I'm from a northern community, 8 hours north of Manitoba, and I have student loans to pay off too. UMSU's salary, frankly, is just barely a livable wage, and it's not enough, but I also have no intention of raising it because I can get by on those means. I just wanted to address it. All of that being said, thank you. All of that being said, I think UMSU's initiative for increasing fees and promoting, sponsoring undergraduate research is a step forward in addressing the budget cuts with regards to academic, forgetting the word, but structures, enterprise. What I already spoke to it earlier, but what I want to do to expand on that with these opportunities is create these symposiums and 3-minute thesis competitions for undergraduate research to be displayed and shown across our institution. Hopefully get more undergraduate students wanting to do research projects, wanting to get involved in academics that way. With all of this involvement from students and all of this kind of research, I guess we could compile and data we can compile with it, we can start lobbying provincial and federal governments to start supplying grant money for not just graduate students and not just professors, but undergraduate students too. So it's not just coming from the students' pockets to supply undergraduate research, but it's coming from the province and the federal government too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, Hannah from UMSU. Yeah, I mean, research opportunities are great. We definitely support those. One thing that I want to touch upon is experiential learning opportunities. We need to ensure that students are getting the proper experience as well, and I think that can really go a long way when we're thinking about getting into the job market and finding out what we're interested in. It helps us to really grow. I know I'm really happy Zach actually talked about the raising of wages, because I'm in the same boat. I've worked my entire university through my own way. So these things are really important, and I feel like experience has actually driven me further to knowing what I want in life. Also, volunteer opportunities, and was there something that you wanted to, with our composting enterprise, one thing I didn't mention is that it creates student jobs. So that's another way of really encouraging people to get good experience on campus. So thank you very much.
Okay. UMSU for you.
Tanji again from UMSU for you. So this past year, as in the Art Student Body Council, I've represented the student body from one of the largest faculties all year, not just for 3 weeks. But something I did was work with career services to ensure that we have a good working relationship with them moving forward. And that's something that we want to do as UMSU executives. On behalf of UMSU for You, we want to make sure that, that we're working with career services, the services available on campus, and Career Connect to ensure that students know what jobs are available to them. And we want to ensure that moving forward, that, you know, with the budget cuts in mind, that the opportunities are still available for students, and that we can help them moving forward on with their lives. Thank you.
Okay. We'll start with take back to the next question. It's about Frosh. There's a specific demographic of students that love Frosh, but many of us are simply not interested in it. How much time and money will you put into Frosh? Will it be more expensive or smaller than last year's?
Nick from Take Back.
Yeah, I'm sure from Take Back.
So what our view on Frosh is it's a great initiative, it's a great place for some, but maybe not for everybody. We want to make it less expensive, but not a lesser event. The means of doing that is we want to keep the prices lower as they are right now for the students for admission, but people from outside campus should not be funded in their tickets, in their partying, by the UMSU students. People from the outside will be paying in full, and I hope that will take some of the costs away from that.
Our students has priority to pay less than other people from outside of the campus. Because in Frosh, our students most of the students showing up, they are from outside, most of the people from outside of the campus. They are not our students, they are going to Frosh, most of them. We have to make it cheaper for our students and increase it for outside the universities people higher. So the reason we are going to do, we have to make it cheap, bring the better DJs and everything, singers for our students. And then this year, the Frosh was indoor. I guess it's supposed to be outdoor every year. Outdoor is making more sense for us to just having more fun and everything. So it should be cheaper for our students all the time. The students has priority for us.
Thank you.
Okay. Zach for Prez.
Zach for Prez. Dara, not that you need me to defend you, but anyone who's on a council is representing the students for the year, not just the president. And it comes from the grassroots. Thank you. With regards to Frosh, I think a big thing to recognize is there is a budget line for it, and we need to follow that budget line to the T. We need to seek more sponsorship opportunities if we have the intention of increasing acts or the cost of the acts. I've already outlaid in my policy online, zachforprez.ca, real plug. I outlined on there, I'd like to see our events, our major events on campus coordinated with our events coordinators through an events management committee. So we have counselors and students at large involved in the event planning process from the beginning. So we're making sure we're accurately representing all students. Quite frankly, I'm not an EDM fan, so the last couple of years haven't been my cup of tea. I want some mixed genre. Another thing I'd like to do is ensure that our events coordinator, who we're already paying, is running our events. We're not hiring third parties to manage and organize these major events. Lastly, I just want to say the student experience is different for every person. So I understand that not everyone's cup of tea is Frosh Music Festival. That's why I'm suggesting we showcase our academic research. We give speaking opportunities and case opportunities for people who go to conferences with travel grants. And we provide oh wow, brain fart. I'm going to stop there because I can't remember what I was going to say. Thank you.
MC forward.
Okay, hi, I'm Hannah from UMSU Forward. So yeah, Frosh Fest. I think it's really great to celebrate at the beginning of year, welcome people to this campus. But I do think that we have such a diverse group of students on this campus, and those students maybe aren't as interested in the events that are offered, and we can have more of an array of events rather than just one headliner that costs a lot of money and that maybe some people aren't interested in. I know for myself, I'm a mature student, and there are other students who are mature students with children. So wouldn't have an event that you could actually bring your children to campus, say, this is where I'm going to be spending my time. It may be more accessible for them, and brings them into the process. That's just one example, but there's so many ways that we can really work with the student groups to create such an awesome celebration at the year that doesn't have to be so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, like Hannah said and so many other slates have said, Frosh Fest has really been too expensive, both for the union and for students regularly. We've gone over budget every year. We've been taking money from student councils to cover the costs. We can't keep doing this year after year when students, we've heard from so many students that they have been turned off by Frosh. What we need are events that are on campus during the times when students are here, things like beer gardens, things that celebrate talent on campus, things that we all believe in and that we want to see on campus.
Hey there, Harrison Pitts from UMSU. Like UMSU Forward and Zach, the president, have both said, Frosh Fest might not be for everybody. That being said, we fully believe in it. It's an excellent event that welcomes people and brings a sense of community to people in the first few weeks of school. We believe it's integral, in fact. That being said, taking money from student unions has been a little questionable in the past, and we need to find a way for that not to happen. What we would like to do is we would like to see more sponsorship from corporate people. Things like people like MTS, Boston Pizza, companies that frequently sponsor other events, for them to be able to help pay as well as be able to get some branding in there. It's not going to hurt us, it's just going to increase the amount of funding we have for an event while still being able to provide the same amount of service. That being said, not every student loves EDM or even live music for that matter, and people know what they like. So rather than putting on events that maybe UMSU has no idea about, why not increase student group funding? Allow them, those people who know exactly what they're talking about, to have more events more frequently for the people who really like it. We're going to do this by restructuring the student fees so that large faculties like arts and science may take a very small hit, but it will be entirely beneficial to very, very small student groups that say an increase of $200 would be incredibly large. Things like this are the small but incremental steps that are going to be working for you. And that's what we want to do in this upcoming year. Thank you.
Just to follow up, you mentioned bringing in more corporate sponsorship for Frosh. How did you go about doing that? What could you offer to corporate sponsors to try to incentivize them to come?
Right. That's a great question. So one of the big things that we do as UMSU this year is we have a huge deal with MTS. MTS loves working with us. They're a local company, and they love getting involved with local events. So MTS was a sponsoring partner for Frosh Fest, so it was quote-unquote MTS's Frosh Fest or Frosh Fest presented by MTS. That being said, there were other sponsors such as U1 and Arts Council. So introducing that sort of sponsorship to other companies, allowing them to come to the event and market or even donate different products would be huge. It would allow students to interact with different companies as well as being able to provide the funding that we need.
Thank you.
Frosh and other orientation-related activities that's not my slide. Frosh and other orientation-related activities are really crucial for the student experience. But I personally feel that we should have something like a Harvest Moon themed festival. Frosh, yes, but for Frost or during the winter week, people are just celebrating, folk music and stuff like that. I again am not a big fan of EDM, but there is a huge population at the U of M, the U1 students, the 18-year-olds and the 19-year-olds who love Frosh. So Frosh, we will continue having Frosh, but we will ensure that we're not spending a huge amount of money. It has to be neutral. We shouldn't be spending a lot of money on Frosh Music Festival. We need to get external sponsors, bringing a headlining Frosh for a long time. The title sponsor, and we need to bring sponsors like that for Frosh Music Festival and orientation-related activities.
So what I'm hearing is no one on stage likes EDM.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's enjoyable.
Okay, next question. We'll start with Zach. Yeah. Okay, UMSU has had a tumultuous relationship with the Canadian Federation of Students and their provincial counterparts, CFS UMSU has had a tumultuous relationship with CFS and CFS Manitoba over the past few years. What do you attribute this dynamic to? If elected, what would that relationship look like moving forward?
I don't think I can speak to how that dynamic was created. I don't know what started the break between the two organizations or anything like that. I just know I'm involved in it now. We've been trying to resolve it. We've sent kind of quotes of what we owe and trying to send a check to CFS to get this sorted out. I know moving forward, and if anyone checks the Manitoban online, the CFS article, my opinion in regards to its connection with our organization is they need to understand what our needs are. I respect and appreciate the need for a national body to lobby for the interests of students to government. That is important. But U of M is not the only institution in the past number of years that have brought concerns to the CFS about how it's structured, about how you're addressing these larger or other institutions' needs, and student unions' needs. And frankly, I'm assuming that's what, because a number of years ago it was just ignored and not being addressed. I'd like to open dialogue, really press forward on addressing those needs. I ran for the CFS National Treasurer at the CFS AGM, and that was part of what I talked about. And admittedly, I wasn't prepared for it. It was a decision. Having finally had the opportunity to get involved in the organization at that level, participating in the AGM, I felt a need to bring that voice regarding why institutions want to separate and how we need to bring each other back. Because you can't have an effective student movement if there are other unions who do not want to participate or are pulling out of the movement. So we need to work on that. Thank you.
Okay, so like Zach, I haven't been inside those meeting rooms for the last 3 years. I can't speak to why it is that the relationship with the CFS is broken down so significantly. Like him, I also agree that the CFS should be working towards recognizing the local needs of unions across the country and meeting their priorities on their campuses. But what I can't stress enough is the necessity of having a provincial and national student voice. The CFS is currently our only position with the provincial government. If we're going to be working on setting a strong tone with the provincial government next year, keeping tuition low, making sure that universities are funded so that it can be accessible for all students, we need to be working with our provincial body. And if we're going to be working on a national strategy for post-secondary education, where the federal government retakes its role in funding universities across the country, we need to be working with our national organization.
All right. So I would love to work with the CFS next year. I definitely think that it's a partnership that's worth, a relationship that's worth rebuilding. I want to ensure that it is on UMSU's terms. However, we are autonomous as well. But especially, I think the CFS can be very beneficial, especially when it comes to our advocacy campaigns, such as the No Means No campaign, and the Divest campaign. And there was a lot of conversation regarding that this past year. And I think that more can be done. Like an example, if elected as your president next year, I want to make sure that the Board of Governors approves, hopefully, or bring a motion for the Board of Governors on that we divest and we stop supporting fossil fuels and we start investing in clean energies and technologies of the future. In terms of the No Means No campaign, I'm a big advocate for consent culture, improving the culture on our campus. I'd like to also introduce a trauma resource and counseling center, and I'd like to work with CFS and also clinic on this as well to ensure that we're promoting a safe environment for all students. Thank you.
Well, students democratically chose to join the Canadian Federation of Students, and I respect that mandate. I worked tirelessly with my colleagues. We went to the AGM to figure out the fee issue, and I'm glad the fee issue is finally settled and the check is being sent within the next few days, or it's probably been sent. I don't know. I've taken leave of absence for the past 2 weeks. But people democratically elected to join the CFS, and I respect that mandate. Having said that, I do believe that spending $330,000 each year to the Canadian Federation of Students, we're not getting all of that back. Like it's way too expensive for a large university like UMSU. We have 25,000 students, and I think if UMSU executives do a good job, we don't need to spend $330,000 to CFS. We could do that for maybe $3,300 and and have the exact same campaigns. I believe in the no means no campaign. I believe in the fossil fuel divestment campaign. I happen to lead that campaign, and I'm so glad people from other states support that. Again, I have excellent relationship with the national chairperson of CFS, Goran Art. I also have a good relationship with the provincial chairperson of CFS, Michael Barkman. But again, great people. My views on CFS have remained, have changed in the past few months, where I've seen, where there's so much being spent on campaigns when we can actually run them on our own. No More Blurred Lines campaign on mental health, sexual assault, and on fossil fuel divestment.
Just a quick follow-up. Any thoughts on sort of where that is in between UMSU and the CFS started, the dynamics of the relationship?
See, again, I know for a matter of fact that that communication is a key, right? Both the UMSU executive in the past and CFS have not been on talking terms in the past. I think it's time that that we bridge those communication gaps, talk to them more often, and see how we can improve on that communication and respect the mandate of the union. There was a time when I was a strong CFS supporter, and I was there wholeheartedly, but I sat in the provincial executive, and I was constantly attacked for representing the views of us. Since then, CFS is what it is.
Okay. Finishing up.
Nick will take that. We need to make sure that the relationship with CFS is rebuilt and strengthened by an open means of communication and by transparent means of communication. We need to make sure that students of U of M are getting back the money that we are sending to CFS in terms of benefits, in terms of campaigns, in terms of everything that CFS can do for the students, for you, for everybody. And CFS has been only helpful to university in the past, and we cannot just deny their presence. Thank you.
Okay. We've got one more question, and then we'll do some just finishing our closing remarks. We'll start with UMSU Forward for this one. Of all the policies and initiatives you've put forward by your competitors, discounting any that you've also proposed, which do you think have the most merit, and would you consider implementing them if elected? Sorry, I'll try to repeat that. Of all the policies and initiatives you've heard put forward by your competitors, discounting any that you've also put forward, you shared your position already, which do you think have the most merit, and would you consider implementing them if elected?
Okay, so there's a couple. I do think the sexual assault resource center has some merit. However, as someone who has been working in the feminist community and very connected to sexual assault issue, I feel like having a trauma center, it might be difficult for people to even just walk in those doors. Disclosure is a big thing. I think that expanding on the mental health services is really important. And I think with us, we would really like to do that first. Right now, there's only, as I said, 4 spaces, which is just not large enough for the 36,000 students that are on campus, 25,000 of which are UMSU members. Also, the divestment campaign, that's something that we will absolutely be supporting. And it's great to hear that we're all on the same page with not being in favor of those budget cuts and working against those. It's really good to hear. So regardless of what happens, I think that that is something that I hope will remain a really strong position. And yeah. Hope that answers the question.
I'll leave it to the
Thank you
audience.
very much, everyone.
Next up.
Hey there, Harrison again from UMSU for You. So each one of us 5, have an individual campaign that we are most passionate about. For me, it has to do with restructuring the student fees. For our VPA, it has to do with the Trauma Resource and Counseling Center and partnering with Clinic. And for our VPSS, it has to do with the introduction of Indigenous achievements and as well as scholarships. But that being said, while all of those are very feasible and possible, the one thing that we want to stress to students is that we are going to make the UPass work for everyone. We are going to ensure that people who carpool to school, people who cycle to school, who walk to school, and who live on res, as well as individuals with accessibility needs, are going to be able to opt out of the UPass. That is just key. While it was voted in favor, it doesn't mean that everyone supports it and should be forced into this. A lot of the time, that being said, every individual who does take the bus should also have some more benefits. Considering how much the university will be paying to the city of Winnipeg, we expect to see more buses. We expect to see things that are going to make students more comfortable. So that's why in our first few months of working, if elected, we will be sure to make sure that the UPass is going to be accessible and feasible for everyone. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up on that.
Sure.
Would it be possible to get much change in opt-outs and things this far along into the process? Are there any limitations that might come up by the time a new slate takes office?
Sure, great question. So we have to think in terms of forward thinking here. We can't think that changes are going to happen immediately. When I say that I want to see that people can be able to opt out, it might not be able to happen for this first round of agreements. The contract, from my understanding, is either already signed or on its way. But that being said, we will have some leeway. That as well, the University of Manitoba Students' Union has all the leverage in this negotiation. Ultimately, decided, but we have the ability to say, well, we don't need this, and sorry, City of Winnipeg, if you're not doing it for us, well, then it might not be in our best interest either. That being said, we do want to make sure it does happen, and we'll be able to support it. So ultimately, it's going to be maybe well over a year-long process, but we're thinking for the future. We're thinking for the students who aren't just going to be here next year or the year after, but maybe 3 or 5 or 10 years later. Thank you.
Let me first start by saying that opt-outs for UPass is not possible if you're living outside the city limits, or if you have, if you're living outside city limits, or if you have physical disabilities. Apart from that, opt-outs are not possible. There was a referendum, and we have to respect the mandate of the student body. Period. The question was, what do I like about other slates?
What ideas that other slates put forward would you consider implementing?
I'm so glad, when we initially spoke about Sexual Assault Support Center, that is something that, that we personally are very passionate about, providing free feminine hygiene products, promoting consent culture. From other teams, the points that I liked the most was on Zach's platform, where they said, no exams on weekends. I think I've written my fair share of stats and calculus exams on those days. And we need to get rid of that. And we're cheating that policy. We're taking that policy from you.
Okay, thank you.
Good job. So, first of all, I want to talk about So, first of all, I want to talk about the UPass. As VP internal, I've looked pretty early into the campaign, even before the campaign. I've looked into this, and we've reached consensus that we will work towards making opt-outs more available, making opt-outs available for anyone who's choosing to ride a car, who's living in a faraway location, who is not choosing to ride a bus for any reason. However, we have found out that we cannot promise you that we will do it this year. That's why it's not part of our campaign. We would not be 100% sure that it's delivered, and everything that we're saying here, we want to ensure it 100% deliverable. Right now, a contract is being signed, and we will work towards either changing it to, in terms of the contract length, in terms of renewal it, or maybe leverage. We will look at every opportunity available to to make the opt-outs available. At this point, right now, we cannot say that it will be done this next year. One more thing is, I just wanted to bring up that we enjoy the opportunity to say that, exams on weekends are horrible idea. Any other things that you like? A lot? We're going to bring more jobs to students on campus. We like that idea from UMSU Forward, and we want to ensure that managers who have knowledge stay from the outside, but the students are being taught by those managers, not people from outside. Clerical jobs, some jobs that need to be available to the students, and as well as reopening the archives for the students.
And they people from outside the university to work for us. That with just working at the hub. Some of them are not the students. So money, spending the students' money to pay the other people to come work for us. Why? We have to hire our students. Why our students should work outside of the university when we have job for them? They can't work here. Our students have priority to get these jobs. Thank you.
Zach, I appreciate everything the other candidates have been saying. I think I have some difference of opinions with that, and I'll address that with little 15-second videos throughout my campaign. But one idea I really like, and to be honest, I didn't like it before, was the composting idea. Simply because this year our businesses started composting, and even just to get that stuff moving forward, there isn't a large enough composting unit in the province to handle the amount of waste coming through the